Actually, 1 second. We'll give that to Mr. Menendez. Mr. Menendez, I now recognize you for 5 minutes for second round of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to return back to the risk that AI poses to election security. I appreciate Mr. Stamos' answer. I just want to quickly open it up to any of the other witnesses if they'd like to expand on it. Okay, so let me ask a question. How can CISA best support election officials in combating the risk? Mr. Stamos, I'll go back to you.
So not just about AI, but the kind of coalition that came together to protect the 2018, 2020, 2022 elections has fallen apart. And I think Congress has a role to play here. This is due to investigations elsewhere in the House, into civil lawsuits. There's a lot of arguments over what is the appropriate role of government here. And there are totally legitimate arguments here, right? There are totally legitimate arguments that there are things that the government should not do, especially when we talk about mis and disinformation. Instead of this being a 5-year fight in the courts, I think Congress needs to act and say, these are things that the government is not allowed to say. This is what the administration cannot do with social media companies. But if the FBI knows that this IP address is being used by the Iranians to create fake accounts, they can contact Facebook, right? And that, recreating that pipeline of Cyber Command and NSA to the FBI who can help social media companies stop foreign interference, recreating that, I think, is a super critical thing, and only Congress has the ability to do that.
Got it. And just looking through the election system, how can we support our local election officials who face some of the same challenges small businesses do in terms of fewer resources, but having the same challenge arrive at their doorstep?
Yeah, I mean, so traditionally this has been the role of the election infrastructure ISAC and the multi-state ISACs, in that, unlike any other developed economy, we have 10,000 election officials who run our elections, and that does provide security benefits in that it would be extremely hard to steal the entire election because you have so many disparate systems, so many different ways of counting and such, but it also makes it much easier to cause chaos. So I think reaffirming CISA's role as a supporter here and reaffirming the role of the ISACs as providing that level of support is a key thing, because that's, again, something that's kind of fallen apart since 2020.
Are there any other considerations that we in Congress should be thinking about as we go into 2024 with respect to election integrity?
I mean, I guess there's a bunch. I think the other thing that a number of people have proposed, a colleague of mine, Matt Masterson, came and wrote a report with us at Stanford on the things he would do. And so I'm happy to send you a link to that. But there's been discussion of creating standards around, what audits look like, what does transparency look like and such. I think it would be nice to see the states with a push from the federal government to more aggressively mentally red team their processes to see how does it look to people. That if you have rules that you're counting, it takes you 2 weeks here. In California, it takes us forever to count our ballots because of a bunch of different rules. And that makes people think the election's being stolen. It's not being stolen, but it's not fair, but you should set your policies with the expectation that people will take advantage of those kinds of situations to say the election is being stolen. And so I think doing a better job of setting up our rules to be very transparent, to make it clear to people this is how an audit works, is one of the things that we've got to think about going into 2024, so that when you have these things that seem a little weird, it does not create an opportunity for bad actors to try to imply that the entire election was rigged.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.